Hello my friends, this is Ian and welcome to today's video. This is no longer Inktober, this is now absolutely 100% officially Latetober, and this is now even later than it was going to be originally because I've been having some pretty severe technical difficulties over the last couple of weeks, and I'm actually going to go into that not in this video. I'm going to talk about that a whole bunch more in an upcoming video, which I have no idea exactly when that's going to be released, but it should be in the next few weeks, so look forward to that one. But today's video is not about that. Today's video is about this picture and this prompt, and this prompt was guarded. I had a pretty solid idea of what I wanted to do with the prompt, in that I wanted to have an Alsatian, a dog of some description, guarding a sleeping person. Originally, my first thought was a homeless girl, like with a small dog curled up next to her, guarding her as she slept in a back alley, and I felt that was a little bit too depressing, so I went with a post-apocalyptic, the world has ended and everybody is dead, much more cheery kind of landscape piece instead. Yeah, that's how my mind works. The dog became a wolf, and the child became some kind of tribal human. I wanted to play more with having bracelets and things on her as she slept, and for whatever reason I kept forgetting to add extra accoutrements and things to her. So she's just kind of got some face tattoos which come in later towards the end of the line work. But as for the setting, what I wanted to do with it, I wasn't entirely certain, and I came up with the idea of having her taking shelter under a crashed plane, some kind of a small lightweight plane. So the one that you see that I'm drawing here is kind of based a little bit on a Cessna. I have no idea what kind of model of Cessna it is, but Cessna is the only lightweight aircraft that I've ever flown in. So it seemed like a fairly obvious choice to go for when it came to what kind of plane I wanted to crash into the ground there. And I wanted it to be sort of a nice kind of scale against the character as well. I didn't want it to be a really big kind of plane and make the subject very small. And after I got those two elements in, the main two elements being the wolf and the sleeping person and the plane, I went straight into the line work from that. I'd found in previous episodes I was finding it very difficult to stop the pencil from smudging for some reason with the setup that I've got here at the moment. So I figured I'd do all the main principal elements of the picture first and do all the line work for that, and then I'd come back and do the foreground and the background later and sketch those in after I'd got those first elements absolutely cemented onto the page so they weren't going to smudge. I did struggle with the person's face in this, which was kind of an odd thing. I'd scaled the head to the aircraft to make sure that they were in scale to one another, and then when I came to put the face on her, I think I don't know what I did. Everything felt right in place until I put the line work down, and then suddenly her face became really squished into the picture. Like, she just had a face which only covered the bottom half of her face. Like, her eyes were where her nostrils should be. So I went back later and kind of readjusted her and put her face in the right position to look like she was a human being. And that clears up later in the picture. I think the camera actually cut that out It was just a very small section that it cut out. Unfortunately, it does cut out another section of the Inkwash stage as well, unfortunately, so I'm sorry about that. It's just the way that my camera is at the moment. I broke a lens the other day, and now it has to be much further away from where I'm filming, so it's much more difficult to check whether it's still filming. Like I say, many technical difficulties over the last couple of weeks. Back to the picture, now you can see that I'm going through and I'm adding a lot of little details into the line work for this main section of the picture, and this just entailed of going through and drawing out a lot of the panels in the plane and the rivets which are holding it all together, as well as a few rocks and things on the ground. Lots of little details just to start really bringing things all together. And then it is on to doing the background and the foreground for this particular piece. And I decided to go in a direction that I haven't done with these pictures at all yet, and that is with a more of an urban environment. Have it placed in a city, so you're looking up at buildings and things around you. So there was a lot of use of perspective and things in the background, trying to make sure all the buildings and things are lined up in a way that I like. And then there was thinking about things with elements that I can bring down onto the ground level as well, just to help tie the two sides in together, because at the moment the way the picture stands with just the Cessna and the two characters, the wolf and the sleeping person, that could be anywhere. That could be out in the desert somewhere, it could be out in a forest. There's nothing to kind of tie it into the world that it's set in. So adding something into the background which ties into the foreground is going to really solidly put these characters into a world somewhere. So elements that could be in the foreground could have been anything from cars to street lamps to signposts to that kind of thing. I actually ended up going with a traffic light, one of the ones that you'd normally see kind of suspended over the road, just laying down crumpled and smashed in the road in front, just to help tie the destroyed city feeling into the whole piece. This is definitely one of the bigger and more ambitious and detailed pieces that I've done so far for this Latetober, and it's been a really fun one to work on. As you guys know, if you've been around on this channel for a while, you know I love getting into all the details and creating all the textures and things. So finding that I'm able to do that to some extent with this ink pen that I've crafted and these inks is great fun to find. And I think the next one is going to be no exception. I've got an idea in my mind for it, which if I can pull off is going to be really cool. So look forward to that one, unless I totally fail in my ambitions, in which case look forward to it, but on a totally different level. In order to get the details into the background without making the background too loud and stand out too much, I used a very, very light hand and didn't really worry about getting perfectly straight lines in all of the background buildings. So in all the windows and everything, they're a little bit jaggedy around the edges so that the silhouette of the shape isn't perfectly obvious, and the line itself is literally just a very light hand brushing across the page with the pen, so it's not ever going to be really thick ink going down, so it doesn't pull the focus into the background whilst still giving me the option of putting enough details into the shapes of the buildings to give them some character and really kind of tie the whole piece in together and make it really feel like it was at some point an actual living city. So that includes things like putting in there's a telegraph pole that I put in, and there's also sort of aerials and things up on top of the buildings, some of which have fallen over and obviously broken. There's lots of little things that I add into it just to try and give it an element of this was a place that was a thriving city, and now it has become nothing more than a husk and a miserable place to be, apparently. It's interesting to note that I didn't put any form of other life in the picture. There's no plants or anything, so I don't know what happened in this world. I recently watched The Road, which is a post-apocalyptic film starring Viggo Mortensen, or Aragorn, as you probably know him. And that's a similar kind of thing. There are plants in that, but they're all dying and falling apart, and very soon there will be no trees or plants anywhere in the world. And I think after just simply having that recently in my mind, I liked the aesthetic of just, what if there were no plants at all? They weren't there. So yeah, that was that. Anyway, I should be on to doing the washing and things now. So got the black inks going down in various stages. Like I say, there was a part of this footage that didn't get recorded. I think I actually stopped the recording because I was having problems with one of the Aquash pens, and I went to go and rinse it out. I stopped the recording and I forgot to start it when I came back. I did catch it, and unfortunately I'd basically finished the piece at that point, and all you really get is me signing it at the end. And then I was looking at the piece and I was about to throw it in together and start editing it, and I was like, you know what? It's not finished. So I went back and I started doing it, started another layer of the Aquash on it with darker ink mix, and I'm really happy that I did, because when I'd finished doing that, it really started to make parts of the picture pop that weren't popping quite how I wanted them to before, particularly in the foreground. Before, everything felt fairly flat from the top of the building, the nearest building down. Everything had a fairly similar tone to it, but after going in and adding in those darker black areas, it really started to kind of lift out the areas which I wanted to be lighter, if that makes sense. Anyway, I think that we are coming towards the end of this video. I really enjoyed this piece. Like I say, getting in to do all the little details and things with this one, I really enjoyed. So definitely going to be doing some more of that in the future of this series. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and my nonsensical ramblings. If you have, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, take care, and I will see you next time.